Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. I'm Scott Penfold, and as always, bringing you in-depth conversations with some of the biggest names in heavy music. And today, we've got a massive one for you. Joining me on the show is none other than James LaBrie, the unmistakable voice of Dream Theater. And we're diving deep into the band's latest album, Parasomnia, which dropped on February 7th via Inside Out Music. Now, this record is a big deal for a lot of reasons. Not only does it mark Dream Theater's first album with Mike Portnoy back behind the kit since 2009's Black Clouds and Silver Linings, but it also sees the band pushing their signature sound into some dark, immersive territory. With tracks like A Broken Man, Midnight Messiah, and the lead single, Night Terror, Parasomnia takes listeners on a 71-minute journey through dreamlike states, sleep disturbances, and the eerie unknown. We'll get into all that, plus James gives his thoughts on Mike Mangini's departure, what it's been like having Portnoy back in the fold, and where Dream Theater is headed in the future. So stick around, it's all coming up next on the Loaded Radio podcast with Dream Theater's James LaBrie. But before we get into that, though, I want to mention, as always, check out loadedradio.com for all your hard rock and metal news, okay? Because that's constantly updated. As well, we have the live 24-hour, 24/7 radio station right there for you as well, okay? Featuring live personalities, including yours truly, and also past episodes and the most current episodes of this very podcast, the Loaded Radio podcast. That and so much more. Check it out. It's a click away. Loadedradio.com. And as well, don't forget the Loaded Radio free app. Get that wherever you get your apps, which gives you all that stuff I just told you about, but in an app, okay? And it's free, so the price is right. Okay, but enough of that, though. Let's get into it. He is joining me right now. He is the lead singer of Dream Theater, and they have the new album, Parasomnia, that arrived on February 7th. And, man, it is an epic release. James, I got to tell you, man, it's the album is one of the most immersive, I think, incredibly sonic albums that I've heard yet from Dream Theater.
Oh, wow.
The album itself explores themes of everything from sleep disorders to nightmares to altered states of consciousness. What really inspired this concept, and how did it shape the songwriting process?
Well, the inspiration came, John Petrucci just emailed us and said, guys, I've come across this symptom or, somewhat ailment that most people are suffering from around, a lot of people from around the world are suffering, called parasomnia. So he said, hey, let me know if you guys are at all intrigued or have any inspiration to go forward with maybe this being our theme for the album, the new album. And once we read about it, we were like, oh man, this is really cool subject and very dark, obviously.
Yeah.
But so it did, once we were all on board and we said, yeah, let's go for it. Let's definitely, not to mention it's a cool sounding title, Parasomnia. But so at that point, we knew that we wanted to go forward with this subject. So that lends itself right then and there to the music because of Parasomnia and its whole situation with how it affects people individually and collectively. It's a very dark, ominous, disconnecting, and relentless evil force, really. It's just so disruptive and so, debilitating to so many of the people suffering from this. So that lent itself to the music. Obviously, the tonality of the album is very aggressive. It's dark sounding. At the same time, it has some beautiful moments, beautifully haunting, I guess I could say. But so that really kind of opened the door and it gave us that template to bust into the new album and really have a feel as to where and what direction we wanted to take it.
The latest single, Midnight Messiah, also Mike Portnoy's first lyrical contribution since 2009. What was it like having his writing influence back in the mix again?
It was fantastic. I mean, Mike, it was funny because within the first day or two, there's that whole familiarity of how it is to work with somebody. And whether you're working in the Dream Theater context or you're working with other musicians that you've worked with before, there's that recognition on how they go about approaching compositions or putting together songs. And everyone has a signature. Everyone has that certain identity and approach and ritual that they use and their tools, and so having him back in, it was like, oh yeah, I remember all this. And his involvement was fantastic, and it definitely did help steer and create what the album sounds like and the songs what they are. So his involvement was extremely full on and heavy, and that's the only way it could be right, is to, you have to be there 100%. Otherwise, it just wouldn't be who and what we are. It was fantastic having him back in, and it was very. Not only was it familiar, but it was very effortless, and just felt really natural. And it was just like, okay, let's just continue off from where we left, which was even hard to believe, though 13, 14 years ago. It just felt very, very instinctual and natural that we fell into what we do best, get in the studio and let's create something new.
When you first initially announced that Mike had returned, it was kind of out of nowhere. And when was the decision? When did it come down to the fact that, okay, you know what, Portnoy's back, Mangini, we're going to let him go. What was the process there? Like, when did that sort of just come about? Well,
I think that, there were several existential things that were, going on, as far as you could see Mike Portnoy doing John Petrucci's solo album. You could see him doing the solo tour. You could see him doing the latest Liquid Tension album. So there was, all these things that were slowly but surely opening the door to, is that a possibility? Is that something we should consider? Is it inevitable that the band should be considering the classic lineup reunion? And things just start to become a little more obvious as time, continues, and things unfold naturally in that direction. And I think after the last world tour, after we had, we completed that tour and we were at home for a couple months, there were already things that we were thinking about, and that kind of, without getting into it, it was just something that was just pushing us that way through conversations with one another. When I say one another, being myself, John Petrucci, Jordan, and John Mayung, just kind of feeling that magnetism, like, guys, I think this is our time. I think this only makes sense that we bring back Mike and make something of it. Let's do this. Time, like, life's short. It really is. And let's take it while we're still feeling great, while we're still, loving what we're doing. And it's not just for a money situation. It's because we want to see this back, and we want to make the best of it. And I think this album is a true testament to that. So yeah, it's just it made sense.
How did Mike Mangini take the news when you broke it to him?
Well, he was quite very professional about it. Very admirable of him to, have been, he took it in style, in class. I mean, obviously, I think it would have been upsetting. It must have been upsetting. But, he took it for what it's worth. And, even saying things like, it kind of makes sense, guys. I see why this should be happening and why this would maybe inevitably be happening. It just makes sense for the band, and the amount of history that you all have together. It just it seems natural, and he was a class guy, classy, yeah.
I remember last time I spoke to you, but it was about 2 years ago, and Mike Portnoy showed up at one of your shows in New York, and you had to sort of, I guess, reacquainted. You guys had some stuff you had to work through, and
sure we did, absolutely.
Has all that been sort of worked through now, and everyth's cool? Everything's copacetic?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about when we were playing at the Beacon Theater.
That's right, the Beacon.
Yes. And Mike had come out to see the show, and had asked if I'd be willing to see him and get together and just have some kind of a mending of the wounds, so to speak. And at first it was a little startling because it came out of nowhere, And Mike and I hadn't spoken, wow, at that point, it would have been close to 11, 12 years. So it was, the whole situation, it was very calm. It was very, very emotional, because as we looked at one another and we hadn't been in physical presence of one another for so many years, within 30 seconds, we embraced one another, said, hey, I love you, man. And then we went into my dressing room and we talked for about 20 minutes, and we kind of like a catharsis, right? Let's just cleanse this and rid ourselves of all these demons, so to speak, or monkeys on our back. And let's move on, and let's stop the bullshit and the soap opera and all this crap that we're saying about one another. Let's just put that garbage behind us and move forward and realize what we created together is something we can be extremely proud of. And that's basically what happened. And, that's another one of those, situations. When that happened, that's another piece to the puzzle of like, okay, well, it's really starting to come together. We're finishing the puzzle of, oh, and look what it is. It's a classic lineup. So one thing kind of leads to another, right? And it was just opening another door of that possibility.
And having Mike back, and of course, fans were so ecstatic when you made this announcement. Did it impact the way you approached the vocal arrangements or songwriting for Parasomnia?
No. I mean, we approached the writing for Parasomnia like we always would when we're collective, and I'd say that nothing changed. We didn't change, it was still all the same ingredients going into the big pot, and all the way that we've always kind of approached any given new album. It's people coming in with seeds, with ideas, strong communication with one another, and then it slowly but surely evolves into several songs. As far as the vocal melodies or the way that I sang, no. I mean, it's a matter of, it's always been that's collective too. In this instance, it was myself, John Petrucci, Jordan, and Mike sitting in a room. We all had already written melodies that we wanted for these songs. We come in and we throw them out into the big pot, into the center of the room, and we pick the best from the best, or ones that we think, okay, yeah, that feels right. That feels right. I mean, it's the way that I do all my solo albums. I'll write the melodies and then I write the lyrics. And as far as me approaching the music in a vocal sense, it's something that I'm always, it's exciting. I'm always trying to create something a little different, and delve deep into my many different sounds and the styles and the emotions and all that to create something that is much richer, much more enriching, or gives a listener that much more depth into what the lyrics are about, because emotionally you can feel it. So yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to create something that just makes the experience that much better. Yeah.
And, I love the fact that Dream Theater does that. You guys get in a room. You're not like sort of just all in separate parts of the world, but you're actually getting in a room physically with each other and creating. I think that's so cool, man. Is John Young not a part of that process though, or?
No, well, I mean, he has written lyrics throughout Dream Theater's career. But no, he's not a part of the melodic structuring. Vocal melodies. No, he's not. And so, yeah, it's just something that he goes, you guys take that ball and I'm going to be over here. And, and usually he contributes at least one lyric per album. And whereas with this one, he was just like, you know what, guys, I'm going to step out from this one. And, I mean, he has to feel it sincerely to be a part of it, right? So, he just said, no, I'm comfortable. I'm the bass player. It's just like people ask me, how does it feel when you see, all this instrumentation going on, or instrumental songs that going on? I'm like, hey, that's a part of who and what we are. That's a part of the band. Right. So you just accept any given situation, there's a purpose and a reason for it. And that's the way John Mayung looked at this, and has always looked at this.
The band has always blended technicality with emotion, and you were just talking about that too.
Yeah.
How does Parasomnia compare to past Dream Theater albums in terms of its emotional depth and complexity, would you say?
Oh, I think it's right up there with the best. I mean, I really do sincerely think that this album, it epitomizes who and what we are. It's very eclectic sounding, but at the same time, extremely focused and very cohesive. That's the thing, it has to belong together. And especially with this album, I call it more a thematic approach to music and lyrics, because, you have the reoccurring musical themes. You have these motifs throughout the album. And that just, it just makes it that much more deep, an experience for the listener. And lyrically, I think it's such a great subject matter to speak of, and it's very, dark, ominous, disconnecting, and daunting, and it just makes for a very theatrical and cinematic experience and feel. And who better to do that than Dream Theater? I mean, look at the name, Dream Theater. So that's always been a part of who we are. And I think so. On that being said, all the previous albums, whether you want to talk about 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, or even parts of Octavarium, or Scenes from a Memory, all of these albums have that cinema, have that theatrical element in it, and I think this album did it wonderfully. This album is a classic as far as I'm concerned. And it just goes to show you that we keep pushing not only the boundaries of music as to what we feel we can create, but we keep pushing ourselves. We're not just putting an album out so that it's like, okay, we got a new album. Let's go out and do a big tour now. And this one was obviously different than any of the other ones because it's a reunion album. So there's a lot of anticipation, excitement, trepidation from some, but not with us. I mean, once we got into the studio, it was like, close the door. Okay, let's just do what we've always done. We're not going to change anything. We're going to be who we are. We're going to do what we feel we need to do, and nothing else matters at this particular moment. And that's why I think we created the album that we have and create the albums that we have in the past. So, it's where it needs to be. And I think it just shows that, if anything, I think we're continuing to evolve as a band. We're continuing to be better as a band, and as writers and so on and so forth. So I think this is a true testament, and it speaks loudly of that Dream Theater is still fully and passionately invested in who and what we are.
And you know what I love too? I love the fact that you've got Hugh Syme returning for the cover art.
Oh yeah.
No, like your covers are just so cool, man. They go with what you guys do so well. And how involved was the band in shaping the visual aesthetics for Parasomnia, and how does it reflect the themes of the record?
Oh, wonderfully. I mean, like put it this way. As far as the artwork that Hugh has always, and I think he's one of a kind. He's so extremely gifted. But he takes it. We don't, we throw him the lyrics, and here you go. Like, here's a lyric, and he analyzes each lyric. And obviously, I can just only imagine that he's sitting there, and as he's reading the lyric, he's got a pen going, or he's typing every visual or image that's hitting him, and then he embellishes on that, and he creates what ultimately becomes the book cover and or the booklet. So he's always been. We've always given him absolute freedom as an artist. You have to. Or, it's to constrain somebody like that, you're doing yourself a disservice as well as him. So it's always been, here you go, Hugh, knock us out. Come come on back. And there might be things like where he comes back and we're going, okay, it's 95% there, but could you maybe, in this lyric, there's this being said or this, maybe can we bring out those elements somewhat visually? But it's very, very subtle as far as the massaging of any of the images that he creates. Our involvement, we give him full reign. And like I said, there might be a little bit of suggestions here and there to kind of pinpoint, as far as, especially when it comes to the album cover and the back and stuff like that. You have to be a little more specific as to our fantasy, our visual fantasy.
And the album clock's in at 71 minutes. It's a pretty immersive listening experience. What is the ideal way for fans to consume or to experience Parasomnia? Is it like a front to back? Is it like a linear thing you need to experience? Is it a full story? Is it singles? What's the way to consume this album?
Well, I mean, like I said, I think each song can be taken separately and you could feel it for what it's worth. I mean, it's not a conceptual album, so no, you don't necessarily have to listen to it from front to back. But that being said, I think that if you were to listen to it from front to back, you would get our intention that it is a very thematically driven album. And in many ways, because you have your recurring musical themes and your motifs and all that. So it does give you kind of the same or similar or parallel ride that you would get from a conceptual album without it actually being a conceptual album. So to me, and it's probably because of, my demographic, how I grew up listening to albums is, there was no way that I was just going to listen to one song. I was going to listen to this album, and I put the time aside to listen to it from beginning to end. And I think if somebody really wanted to experience this album for everything that it's worth, put some headphones on, go into a dark room, and just lose yourself in it. I think that is the best way to really give this album everything that it deserves.
Nice.
Absolutely. 100%.
That's the way I consume albums as well. I mean, that's really, I'm a big vinyl guy too. So I'm going to get this album on vinyl and do that, drop that needle with the big headphones. Oh, it's going to be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Absolutely, man. I agree.
The band's always really, I'd say, like, push the envelope musically. Do you think Parasomnia represents a return to classic elements? Are you guys feeling like it's breaking new ground? I mean, even with the return of Mike, which way, how would you look at it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just to be expected with Dream Theaters. There has always been levels, a certain level of, it's very unpredictable. Yes, we're always going to push the envelope, and in pushing the envelope, meaning we're only going to do what we do because we feel that's exactly where we need to go. It's not a matter of going, we're just going to do something freaky here and go off on a tangent and be unexpected just because that's just being just unpredictable just for the sake of it. No, there's always a reason behind what we do. And I think the fact that we've always been extremely eclectic. So we're pulling from so many different styles of music that lends itself to us being able to be absolutely free with where we go with the music. And I've always said this, we're not done a song until we feel that everything that should represent that song to its fullest in a Dream Theater sense has been explored and embraced. So that's just the way that it is. And if that means, because of that, the song ends up being 4 minutes or the song ends up being 14 minutes, that's the way it needs to be. And I think that's the beauty of Dream Theater, is that we've always felt that we're never going to consider the fact that, okay, well, guys, maybe we should wrap it up because we're at this point and we've done all this over here. Or I think that it's always about, hey, guys, we still need more. This song is lending itself to, that we can discover or create so much more to make it something that we feel is fantastic. And, there's there's many instances along the way when we're creating music that we're able to say to one another, okay, after listening to everything, oh, maybe we can lose this. Maybe I was thinking instead, let's bring this back, or let's create something new here. There's always a purpose to where we're going with things. And it's very, very, I should say, it has to be and feel right. And we're constantly, feeling things collectively and individually. And we're, once we're in the room together, a lot of it does seem to just show itself. Like to me, writing music is a miraculous kind of situation. You think you're pulling from nowhere, but it's all cohesive. It's all coming together. You're all on the same page and feeling it. And there's so many unspoken moments where you're just grooving and feeling one another, and it just comes together. It's a beautiful experience. So with Dream Theater, there's never been any borders or formula that we go, well, no, we got to go down here or else we're missing the boat. No. It's like, what are we feeling at this particular moment? Let's go down this because this is what we're feeling at this point, and this is where we're being driven, or this is where we feel it needs to go.
Just looking at Dream Theater, you guys are looked at as pioneers of a genre that would be, of course, progressive metal. And, it changed a lot over the years, that subgenre that is progressive metal. Are there any newer bands out there that have caught your attention? What do you think of the current state of that genre right now?
Yeah, I'm not really listening to too much music at this point, and like that being said, well, if I'm like walking around and the stereo's on in the house, like obviously I'm hearing something there. But I can't really think off the top of my head who might be doing it for me at this point. I know there's a lot of great stuff out there that's coming out and stuff like that, or that it has been released, but I can't say that I've listened to it, so I can't give you my opinion. That's just where I'm at this particular moment in time. Yeah.
Gotcha. And just my final question for you, James, is with Parasomnia dropping, what's next for Dream Theater? Special performances, any surprises? What can we expect in the days ahead for Dream Theater?
Well, with this, the tour, we've done Europe and we've done South America. Now within a week, we're going to be starting a North American tour. Yeah. I think what you could expect is as time unfolds, and Mike Portnoy is back in charge of putting together the set list and doing a phenomenal job, as he always has. And so we're going to be bringing in new songs as the tour goes on. And, obviously we're going to be bringing in more songs from Parasomnia as the tour progresses. We all would love to do, Begs to Be Done, the epic, right? So, the Shadow Man incident, that is a song that is so cinematic and so theatrical. And with the production that we have nowadays with the lighting design, the lasers, the visuals on screen, it's such a spectacular array of visuals. And so we will continue to introduce new songs into the set list, and that will just be a continuation throughout the tour. Because obviously this world tour, we're going to be out for at least a year, another whole year, I would think, if not maybe a bit more. I don't know, but that's what I envision at this point. But yeah, we're going to keep busting out new songs, keep the set list evolving along with the tour, and keep it fresh and exciting, and blow the doors open each and every night we walk on stage, for sure.
So you don't see Dream Theater stopping anytime soon? Like you guys are going to keep doing this?
No, I think right now we're in a great place. We're all in great health. So the future for Dream Theater is it's unlimited. It's limitless. It's up to us, but I think we will do this world tour, and I'm quite confident that we'll want to jump back in the studio and create a follow-up and do another big world tour. We're feeling it right now where we want to be. We still love doing what we're doing. And I think that's that's all that it really takes. As long as we're all on board, we're together, we're feeling great, we're having a lot of fun out there on stage each and every night. We're having a lot of fun off stage, and I think that's really the true telling of that we plan on doing this for a bit longer for sure.
That's fantastic. James, It was a pleasure, my friend. I'm so excited to see you again, man.
Oh, thanks, Scott. And appreciate your support. And yeah, man, it's going to be a great show. Can't wait.
I'm excited. Take care and all the best to you, James.
Okay, man. You too,
Bye.
Scott.
All right, that's James LaBrie from Dream Theater, man. Parasomnia. It's out now. Check it out. Give it a listen. It is an absolutely great experience. Like James was saying, man, it's one of those albums you got to listen to from front to back. And if you got the big headphones and if you can like do it that whole way, put yourself in a room and listen to it. It's just such a cool experience, okay? As always, don't forget, again, hey, check out loadedradio.com. Go there, man, your ultimate destination online for all things hard rock and metal, all the hard rock and metal news, all the latest tunes, all the greatest stuff, as well, including past episodes and every episode of this Loaded Radio podcast and the live 24-hour radio station. Don't forget that, featuring live personalities, including yours truly. I'm on there 5 days a week, okay? So yeah, check it out for yourself. It's all at loadedradio.com. I'm Scott Penfold. I'll be back again next week with an all-new show, and I'm looking forward to it, okay? And we will talk to you again then, right here on the Loaded Radio podcast. Loaded.